Westwood One presents Lindsey Buckingham, Off the Record with Mary Turner, brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Lindsey Buckingham, Off the Record.
This album really is, I see it somehow as being a very high-tech folk album, if that makes any sense. In the sense that the tools were actually far higher tech than on Law & Order. Fairlight, computer keyboard system, and even the people that were involved could be perceived as being more into a high-tech sort of way of looking at things. And at the same time, the actual content is very high-touch. Folk music is a music of the people, and I feel like most of the stuff on this album is very much very folksy, very people-oriented, very human, even though the way it was done it has sort of an icy exterior to it in a sense. The inside of it is very, very warm. You know, the theory of high tech versus high touch being that for every little bit of high technology that people find themselves having to be a part of their everyday lives, they're going to need the other side of that, which is the high touch, which is, being able to feel that you can touch somebody and have the human contact to balance it out. And I feel that that's one of the main achievements of this album, is that it may seem odd at first, or it may seem a little strange, but when you get inside it, it's very, very high touch and very folky, and it's something that a lot of the present sort of avant-garde in pop avant-garde doesn't seem to be able to do too well. So, high-tech folk.
It's not exactly Kraftwerk meets Peter, Paul, and Mary, but high-tech folk is a pretty good description of what Lindsey Buckingham has done on Go Insane, his latest solo album. I'm Mary Turner, and for the next hour I'll be talking with Lindsey about his high-tech, his folk, and his Fleetwood Mac influences. Can you combine the three and stay sane? We'll find out off the record.
Pardon me for asking, but you weren't really going insane, were you? I mean, this is kind of a metaphor. Were you?
Well, in a sense, I don't know. That's an interesting thing. I mean, the album does deal with, I think we all go a little mad from time to time. And of course, insanity can be said to be very relative to the context in which you find yourself. I mean, in the sense that an example might be a very acceptable and typical behavior for a group of people, say in a little rock and roll microcosm, might be grounds for someone being committed if they worked in a bank. So, I mean, looking at it in that way, we all do tend to go insane a little bit. The point is not, I think that's okay. I think one of the things the album is saying is that it is okay to do that a little bit. I think it can be quite cathartic, actually, to sort of watch yourself go out to the edge and sort of reel yourself back in. Now, hopefully you do reel yourself back in. Another point the album makes is that there are situations where if you happen to be with someone else who takes that sort of behavior too far, and you're not willing to give up whatever that relationship might be, then you will tend to go a little bit insane with them. And if they are doing that, you're going to experience a lot of the things that they are simply by virtue of being a part of that. The important thing is just not to take it too far, I guess.
The album titles, Law and Order, is so everything in its little niche, and Go Insane. Was that on purpose, or did it just happen that way?
What do you mean, everything in its little
Well,
niche?
Law and Order connotes order. It's very orderly. Go Insane sort of connotes chaos.
Right, that's true. Well, I think, okay, if you want to look at whatever is autobiographical about Law and Order, that perhaps at that point in time I was starting to experience some things personally that were not as pleasant as they should have been, and yet I wanted to follow through with a commitment. I wanted to, if you make a commitment to a person, you say, well, I'm going to see this through to its completion and the cycle, and hopefully things will work themselves out. And that's what, in my mind, having a certain sense of laws and an orderly, a sense of order that you live by, that's what that's all about. So perhaps Going Insane is the completion of that, in the sense that, this was something that had to, the cycle was never really completed. it just sort of kept going in the same direction, and I finally had to sort of break off, because if the bonds, you have to cut the bonds or else they'll just burst.
Is writing kind of cathartic to you? Does it sort of serve some people go to shrinks to talk about things. I would think you could get a lot out. You could free yourself of a lot by writing. Absolutely.
It's odd. Some people can only write and can only do that when they're really quite miserable. Other people need the confidence that the up times bring, in order to draw out the sensitivity. So, yeah, it's really it's just about all that I live for. Especially now. I mean, I for the first time in quite a while, I'm sort of a bachelor again, and I don't find myself being particularly interested right now in pursuing another relationship or getting involved at all, really, right away, or even anytime soon. I think because I feel that this is a time which is very important for me to put all my creative energies into what I'm doing, all my energies into the creativity, I should say. And sometimes you find, like, when you sort of bind up the heart a little bit, that it kind of liberates the spirit in many different ways.
Sitars, synthesizers, drums, guitars, and bass. Lindsey Buckingham plays them all on Go Insane. Why is the album virtually a one-man show? We'll find out when Off the Record continues. What was it that got you interested in music in the first place? You must have been quite young.
Well, I have a brother who's 7 years older than I am, and when I was about 7, I guess, or 6 or 7, he brought home an Elvis record, and that was about it. I'm sure that's not a unique experience. There's probably a lot of people my age who started playing at a young age because of that one thing, I mean, that changed a lot of... When Elvis broke through, I think I was playing guitar that same year, 7 years old. I haven't been able to put it down.
What's the first Elvis record you remember hearing?
I think Heartbreak Hotel.
Really? Because I had a brother who was 5 years older. I wish he had inspired me to learn how to play, but he sure got me hooked on music because I was quite young too. For me it was I Want You, I Need You, I Love You.
That was, it's all around the same thing.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that the B-side of
Don't Be Cruel,
Don't
Be Cruel, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yes, I remember hearing it in the drugstore on the jukebox.
What the hell is that?
Right, exactly.
Whatever it is, I like it.
So in the future for you, you mentioned an imminent Fleetwood Mac project.
I didn't know. I said that the pressure for such a project is going to be imminent. I don't know. I hate to make any comments on that one way or the other. I think that in the past, I mean, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I think that I've always been had a very strong sense of altruism towards the group in general, and which is what a group should be, I mean, if you are in there and you're responsible to a great degree for what is going on musically, then you should be there and you should support your co-workers with what you have to offer. Right now, I don't feel quite... I think I'm looking at things with slightly less sense of altruism. And that's about all I really could say about it, That's about all I'd want to say right now about that.
Nothing wrong with that. Remember the immortal words of James Brown. You've got to live for yourself.
With the Tusk album, you seem to be taking an ever-increasing part in the technical stuff. No, blame. How did you learn about all this technical stuff? I mean, tape loops and stuff. It's usually engineer kind of territory.
Well, I am an engineer. I've been working with tape machines since I was about 18. I got a Sony 2-track and was doing sound on sound, when I was 18, 19. And when I was 21, some aunt that our family didn't even know, left my brothers and I each $10,000 when she died, and I went out and got an Ampex 4-track with half-inch tape and a professional machine in a console, and took it up to my father's warehouse and started. By that time, Stevie and I were sort of a duo, and learned how to work machines basically from that. So it's been an ever-increasing process of learning.
Tell me about the Fairlight. Is this the wave of the future? It's very technical, isn't it?
It's very high tech, yeah. it was odd. I'm a guitar player, and actually there is quite a bit of guitar on this album, but for a long time when I first started using it, I found myself never playing guitar, because a Fairlight, what it is basically, for those who may not know, is it's a keyboard system and a computer system and a TV screen. And it has what they call floppy disks, which store information, and you can record. It's not like a synthesizer, which is an electronic, some sort of electronic semblance of a saxophone or something else, but it isn't really. Now what you do with a Fairlight is you actually record, you sample a note from the instrument or from the voice or from anything you want, onto the disc, and then you put it in and you play voices or drums or cellos or anything you can think of. Anything that can be recorded can be put on a Fairlight and played as a musical instrument.
Is it difficult to operate, program? What's the terminology
well,
here?
I don't
Play?
really have to. There's a million things you can do with it. I'm not that interested in programming it, because you can buy a library of sounds, and it's like with anything else. It's really how you use it. It's not what it is, it's what you do with it that's really important.
There are those bands and those artists that figure, hey, I got a winning formula, I'm not going to mess with it. You seem, on the other hand, to go out of your way to even take chances that could be very risky if you were into just selling records. But the most important person to please then is yourself, isn't it?
Well, that could be perceived as being self-indulgent, and at times it indeed has been, But that seems like part of the territory, somehow, in taking those chances. I mean, you've got to take chances. You've got to, even if you fail. The whole situation that happened on the Tusk album was really a strange thing after the fact, and the amount of record sales that were presumably lost because of following up such a commercial album with such eclectic is certainly one word, esoteric, whatever you want to say, although in retrospect that album probably wouldn't sound particularly strange now.
Nothing wrong with 4.5 million copies anyway.
No, absolutely not, but it certainly hasn't helped to put me in a straight line in terms of anything I'm doing as a solo artist. But then again, I mean, I guess it's very nice to have both, because the Fleetwood Mac are certainly a wonderful group of people. So I certainly wouldn't have missed that for anything.